I love also that homecoming is not only therapy, that there is a deeply spiritual aspect to this.
Yes.
So what is sort of how would you describe the difference between therapy and spirituality and the work that you need to do in both areas?
That's right. So unfortunately, many people who are in the mental health field did not get trained to incorporate spirituality. And so there's research that shows on average, mental health professionals endorse a lower level of spirituality or religiosity than the general public.
Really?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a part of that can go with higher levels of education, that a lot of times people can disconnect as with education can feel like they need to prove everything. And spirituality is beyond our proving or our being able to manipulate it, right? So it's like it's not concrete, right? And so that's in the field of psychology, the actual, the founders in the field were often people of faith. But then there was this move in the field where we wanted to prove we're a science. So if we want to prove that we're a science, then we can't talk about anything people find spooky or soft or, in some other realm. And so then there has been a neglect from that area. And then I think the other part of it has been the recognition that some people have been harmed in spiritual spaces. So then some therapists will overgeneralize and think that it is all harmful, as opposed to whenever you get people together, you're going to have some good and some bad, some things that are healthy or unhealthy.
What is your definition of spirituality?
It is an awareness of the sacred beyond what we can see.
Oh, I love that definition. And now that we're on this topic, it occurs to me, how could you possibly heal without pulling faith and a belief that something that you have not experienced is possible?
That's it, 100%. Because I even say, to be a therapist, social worker, life coach, any of these things, you have to have faith. And for people to show up, there has to be a faith that there can be more than what I have seen and what I have experienced. It's like when I'm counseling people who have only had unhealthy relationships, and I have to say, just because this one is better doesn't mean it's good, right? If you're just used to bad treatment, if people call you back, you're like, right? They called me back. And it's like, that was nice, but there's more, right?
Yes.
There's more.
Yes. So we've kind of started stepping toward this awareness. How do you combine the spiritual practice and the belief in something that you may have never experienced or seen with the work to start to heal, or as you say, reparent yourself in the physical space?
That's right. So a part of it is what gives us the motivation to do the work, because a lot of times we're operating based on evidence, which is what we've seen. So if I've only had bad experiences, my parents abandoned me, this person left me, this person mistreated me, if I believe that is all that exists, then the conclusion would be, I am unworthy. Right? That's the only possible conclusion, because, this idea, this, victim blaming, self-blaming of, if I deserved better, I would have received better. And you will hear people blaming other people for being mistreated. They'll say, oh, well, you must have allowed it. And so in order for me to come to a different conclusion, that I am worthy of what I have not yet experienced, I have to have the belief of the more.
How the heck do you do that when your whole life you have experienced either abuse or mistreatment or discrimination or violence? How do you, when you have evidence that does make you feel unworthy, because I'm sure you get these DMs and these emails all day long, so do we, of people who so want to believe that they are worthy, that something is better, that they can change their life for the better. And you and I can sit where we are and go, of course you can. I have just I have so much evidence that it's possible. It's both spiritual and I could argue the case.
Yes. Yes.
But for somebody who is sitting in the disbelief, how do you cross over to belief?
Yeah. So it's a couple of levels. One of them is to get people to reflect on what do they believe all human beings deserve.
Well, I believe I'm a chicken.
Right.
And all I see are chickens.
Well,
and I believe I'm on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Like we go back to this. How do you possibly convince yourself that you could be an eagle if you've never seen one?
Yes, yes. So what we connect with is disrupting what we call the cognitive distortions. So it's not
That's
just...
a big word.
Yes,
what is cognitive distortion?
So your false thoughts, the lies.
Okay.
The lies you told yourself and the lies other people told you.
What if...
Well, let me give you an example.
Okay, please.
Of the lies. So for people who were molested, they either were told directly or indirectly that that is their fault, right? That it's because they developed early, or it's because they shouldn't have been over there, or whatever it is, that somehow that's on you. And so we have to demonstrate that that is a lie. So how do I demonstrate that that is a lie? Does every girl who develops breast early deserve to be molested?
Of course not.
So you are not an exception to that rule.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I can see another lie because I'm a survivor of that kind of abuse.
Yeah.
It's the shh. Don't tell anyone or you'll get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I learned about that, I say from my own journey, is I was taught that keeping quiet kept the peace until I realized whose peace is it keeping.
Oh.
Right? The offender's at peace. The people who don't want to deal with it at peace. And I, in this little body, am holding all of the war. So I don't want to hold it anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, this is what we're taught. You're going to upset things. You're going to upset people. Nobody wants to hear that. And there's no peace.
Whose peace are you keeping?
Yeah.
You're making it easy for everybody else as it's slowly destroying you.
Absolutely. And often then they're doing it to multiple people over the course of years. The silence gives freedom for it to continue.
How do you counsel people who, in the process of starting to come back home to themselves, to learn to fly, to stop holding the peace for other people around you? How do you counsel people to then go back into their life? Like let's just say it's a relationship.
Yeah.
Where you have somebody that you're dating or in relationship with, and there's alcohol or drugs. You've had the conversation. You've gone around and around and around.
Yeah.
And you're the one that's not saying anything. So you're keeping the peace for them.
Right.
How do you handle like that sort of disruption in your life now that you're starting to, because it's scary.
Yes.
The homecoming process can also be scary because you're going to have to confront things.
And it's going to require some losses. And some people are not going to be happy with the new you. People like the silent you. They like the compliant you. They like the doormat you. Who wouldn't like that? Right? So when you start getting some opinions and start getting your voice and not wanting to do some of the unhealthy things you've been doing, not everyone is going to celebrate. And that will be important for you to see. Who wants me whole and who prefers me broken? And then I will have to start making some adjustments. And there are a range of ways we can do it. So like in the work chapter, we say there's one path for if I want to stay on this job and how do I restore myself? And there's another path where I need to leave this job. And in relationship with people, whether romantic or otherwise, some I will have to end and some it will have to be different because I'm different. And there can be a grieving there.
Wow. You know, in your new role, you are really wanting to bring access to therapy, to mental health support, to the process of a homecoming for people, to as many people as possible. So why is therapy? What is therapy and why is it important?
Yeah. So therapy is when you have a trained, licensed facilitator who understands how to journey with you from where you are back home to yourself without judgment and with compassion and without needing you to take care of them.
Oh, that last part was the big one.
That's the big one. That's why your friend is not the same thing. Your family member is not the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had always said objective and licensed, but the fact that you just said, you don't have to take care of them.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the huge part, especially for those of us who have tendencies toward taking care of people. Right?
Yeah.
So then in your other relationships, you'll say, I don't want to burden people, or I know they have a lot going on, so let me just pour into them. Well, this is the space where you don't have to give, you don't have to be on, you don't have to do that. You know, I tell my clients, I'm good. Right? I have spaces outside of here that are for me, so you don't have to worry. I have the capacity to hold it. And that's what we need.
And you also have the tools.
Yes.
To help us recognize and call ourselves out where we're being a chicken.
Right.
Where we could be an eagle.
Yeah.
And how to take flight.
And I will say it is so important to have the tools and the understanding, because people who don't will often blame. Let's say if you have a child who's depressed and their parents just call them lazy.
Yes.
Right? They don't understand what they're looking at. And so that's a part of what's important as well, is perspective and insight into what I'm seeing.
If somebody in your life is struggling, I'm just going to send my husband to therapy. Yeah. Just going to send my kid to therapy. Yeah. Does that work?
So there is a benefit of individual and family.
Okay.
Right? Because I'll say, especially with children, what I saw when I first started was people would drop off their child and I would spend like an hour building this kid up. And then they pick them up and in the parking lot, they're cussing the kid out.
Oh,
it's like this, like they didn't even make it home. So like it's, what are we just going to do this every week? And so now I'm seeing like what the real dynamic is. So, you know, with couples, I will say there is a part of our work that is individual. Let's say if I'm working with a sexual trauma survivor. So there's a part that is that person's journey, but then there's a part for the couple to say, like, what will the intimacy be like for us given the history, and how do we support each other and have patience with each other? And I want to name, as we're talking about people, is not only self-care, but community care.
Let's talk about that. What does that even mean?
Yeah. So we heal in relationship to other people. There is something very liberating and healing in being known, like you reveal yourself and people still love you, right? That people still choose you, that people, that you feel seen and heard and supported. There's emotional social support, which is like someone I can cry with, someone I can share my good news with, someone who I can vent to. But then there's also instrumental social support. Are there people who can help me in concrete, practical ways? And it's important that we know which friend or family member is good at what, right? You may have a relative who's not touchy-feely, right? They're not good with the tears, but they can help you find a job, right? So that's another type of support.
Yeah. I'm surprised and saddened by the number of people that will reach out when they hear you say that and say, I have no one. When you have somebody that you are working with who is telling themselves the story that I have no one, what are the rituals or the tools or the tactics? Because you give homework in this book. Every chapter has homework.
That's right.
I would imagine every counseling session that you do as a therapist has homework. So what would the homework be if you're somebody who says, I have no one?
Then one of our goals will be to make friends. And first get their buy-in. Can we say that that's a goal for you, is to make friends? And so then we have to think about, where are we going to get these friends? Sometimes it's brand new people. So it may be you sign up for a cooking class, or you join a book club, or you join a political organization, or your yoga group. And then sometimes you have people, but you have kept it very surface. So then I want to deepen my relationships. And the Surgeon General has been talking recently and issued the advisory about loneliness. And what I like to tell people is loneliness is nothing to be ashamed of. Some people, when they hear you say you're lonely, they just say you need to love yourself. And I like to say that's not the same thing. You can love yourself and still desire a connection to other people. So that is not an automatic absence of self-love. And so then if I have acquaintances that are all very surface, then to deepen it, am I willing to go deeper? Because again, I can start to shift the tide when I talk about deeper things. Then other people will often meet me there.
Wow. Today, it is going to be one hell of a profound conversation.